My beloved child. Pause here for a moment. Do not let your hand move past this message, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has been unfolding behind closed doors, in a room you never entered, among people whose opinions may soon affect the direction of your heart. Your soulmate's family gathered in secret to speak about you, and what happened inside that meeting was far more emotional, far more complicated, and far more unexpected than anyone outside that room could imagine. Do not skip this moment. There is a reason your spirit has felt restless lately. There is a reason certain thoughts have returned without warning, a reason your heart has been sensing movement even while everything around you appears quiet. The silence you have been experiencing is not emptiness. It is preparation. While you were questioning what your soulmate truly felt, their family was asking a different question: what place do you have in their future? And the answer did not come easily. They did not gather because you were forgotten. They gathered because your presence had become impossible to ignore. Your name had already entered their conversations before that meeting began. It had appeared in small comments, unfinished sentences, quiet glances, and sudden changes in your soulmate's behavior. Someone noticed that your soulmate had begun smiling at their phone differently. Someone noticed that they had become protective of a certain connection. Someone noticed that when your name was mentioned, their voice changed in a way that could not be explained by simple friendship. At first, the family dismissed it. They believed it might be temporary. They told themselves it was only curiosity, only emotion, only a passing attachment that would fade with time. But it did not fade. It grew stronger in the silence. It became more serious through distance. It survived misunderstandings that should have weakened it. And when your soulmate tried to pretend that everything was normal, their family began to realize that something deeper was happening. That was when the secret meeting was arranged. It was not announced openly. There was no formal invitation and no message sent to you. It began with one family member saying, "We need to talk about this before it goes any further." Another agreed. Someone else remained silent, but their silence carried concern. Your soulmate did not know the full purpose at first. They were told it was just a family discussion, something ordinary, something that would not take long. But the moment they entered that room and heard your name, their heart knew. The atmosphere changed immediately. One person sat with folded arms. Another looked down at the table as though they had already decided what should happen. Someone older carried the weight of tradition in their voice. Someone younger appeared curious, perhaps even secretly hopeful. And your soulmate stood there, feeling every gaze turned toward them. Then the first question came. Who is this person to you? It sounded simple, but it was not. Your soulmate could have chosen the safe answer. They could have minimized the connection, laughed it away, or said that you were only someone they knew. They could have protected themselves from judgment by pretending there was nothing serious between you. But something inside them would not allow it. They paused. That pause told the family more than words could have. Because in that small silence, everyone saw the truth. They saw that you were not ordinary to them. They saw that your soulmate was trying to find language strong enough to explain something they had not even fully admitted to themselves. They saw fear, loyalty, affection, and a quiet determination forming all at once. Then your soulmate said something no one expected. They said, "I do not know what the future will look like, but I know this person matters to me." The room became still. My child, stay until the end, because that statement was only the beginning. Something much larger was about to be revealed, something that would force the family to look at you in a completely different way. One family member immediately challenged them. "Matters in what way?" Your soulmate looked uncomfortable, not because they were ashamed of you, but because they knew every word would be examined. They understood that the family was not only asking about affection. They were asking about commitment. They were asking whether this connection could become permanent. They were asking whether your soulmate was prepared to defend a future that had not yet fully begun. And then the hidden concerns surfaced. Someone questioned whether you would fit into the family. Someone wondered whether your background, personality, timing, or circumstances would create difficulty. Someone said they had heard only fragments about you and did not know enough to trust what this relationship might become. Another person feared that your soulmate was being led by emotion instead of wisdom. But beneath those questions was something deeper. Fear. Not fear of you as a person, but fear of change. Your soulmate's family had built an image of how their life should unfold. They had imagined certain choices, certain traditions, perhaps even a certain kind of partner. Your existence disrupted that picture. You represented an unknown future, and the unknown often makes people speak harshly before they understand what they are truly feeling. Yet while some voices focused on doubt, another family member was watching your soulmate closely. This person noticed something the others missed. They noticed that your soulmate did not become defensive when questions were asked. They became emotional. They did not speak like someone trying to win an argument. They spoke like someone trying to protect something precious. Their eyes carried a truth that explanations could not hide. And that family member finally said, "I have not seen them care about anyone like this before." Those words shifted the room. Suddenly, the meeting was no longer only about whether the family approved of you. It became a question of what your connection had awakened inside your soulmate. The family began comparing who your soulmate was before you entered their heart and who they had become afterward. They remembered how distant they had been in the past. They remembered how quickly they used to walk away from emotional situations. They remembered how they avoided speaking about love, commitment, or vulnerability. But since you entered the story, something had changed. Your soulmate had become more thoughtful, more reflective, more willing to question old patterns. They had started talking about the future in ways they never had before. They had begun considering decisions not only for themselves, but for the possibility of sharing life with someone else. That someone was you. My child, what you must understand is that your influence reached that room before your body ever did. Your kindness, your patience, your energy, and even the moments when you remained silent had already left a mark. The family may not have known every detail, but they had seen the result of your presence. Still, not everyone was convinced. One person leaned forward and asked a question that struck your soulmate deeply. If this person matters so much, why have we not met them properly? Your soulmate did not answer immediately. Because the truth was complicated. Perhaps timing had stood in the way. Perhaps distance, uncertainty, fear, misunderstanding, or unfinished healing had prevented the relationship from moving forward. Perhaps your soulmate had been protecting the connection from outside pressure. Perhaps they were afraid that bringing you into the family too soon would expose something still fragile. But there was another reason. Your soulmate had not been certain that you truly understood how much they cared. They had hidden parts of their heart from you. They had delayed conversations. They had allowed pride to speak where honesty should have spoken. And now, sitting before their family, they were being forced to confront what their hesitation had created. The family wanted proof. Not proof that you were perfect. Not proof that no challenges would come. They wanted proof that this connection was real enough to survive reality. That is when someone brought up something from the past. A moment involving you. Perhaps it was something your soulmate had shared privately, an event when you stood by them, encouraged them, forgave them, or showed understanding when others would have walked away. The family member recalled it carefully. At first, your soulmate looked surprised that they remembered. Then the room listened. They spoke about how you had responded during a difficult time. They described how your words had calmed your soulmate when they were emotionally overwhelmed. They mentioned that you did not demand attention, create chaos, or force your presence. Instead, you gave something rare. Peace. And for the first time during the meeting, the person who had been most doubtful became quiet. Because peace is difficult to argue against. The family may have expected to hear about excitement, attraction, or temporary emotion. They did not expect to hear that you had become a place of emotional safety. They did not expect to learn that your soulmate thought of you during moments of fear. They did not expect to discover that when life became confusing, it was your voice they wished they could hear. But the revelation did not stop there. Your soulmate admitted something they had never said aloud in front of the family. They said, "I tried to distance myself." The room shifted again. One person asked why. Your soulmate lowered their eyes and replied, "Because it became too real." My child, do not skip now. This was the turning point. The family suddenly realized that the issue was not that your soulmate lacked feelings. The issue was that those feelings had become powerful enough to frighten them. They explained that they had tried to distract themselves. They tried to focus on other responsibilities. They tried to convince themselves that the connection was unrealistic, badly timed, or too complicated. They may even have tried to appear unaffected around you. But every attempt to move away only made your presence clearer. They noticed your absence more than they had expected. They replayed conversations. They remembered your expressions. They found themselves wondering whether you were okay, whether you were hurt, whether you still thought about them, and whether they had already waited too long. The family listened differently after that. This was no longer a casual attachment. This was a person confronting the possibility that they might lose someone who had touched their life deeply. Yet the strongest opposition had not spoken fully. An older family member, someone whose approval carried weight, finally raised their voice. They spoke about responsibility. They spoke about reputation, stability, long-term compatibility, and the difference between a beautiful feeling and a lasting partnership. Their words were firm but not cruel. They said, "Love is not enough by itself." Your soulmate nodded. That response surprised everyone. They expected resistance. Instead, your soulmate said, "I know." Then they continued, and this is where something extraordinary happened. They did not argue that love would solve every problem. They did not claim that you were flawless or that the future would be easy. They said they knew challenges would come. They knew misunderstandings could happen. They knew families, circumstances, timing, and personal wounds could create pressure. But then they said, "What I feel with this person makes me want to become ready." That sentence entered the room like light. Not, "I am already perfect." Not, "Everything will be easy." But, "I want to become ready." The older family member looked at them for a long time. Because maturity is not proven by having no fear. It is proven by being willing to grow through it. For the first time, the meeting began to move away from judgment and toward possibility. Questions became more personal. What do you admire about them? Your soulmate answered quietly. They spoke of your strength, especially the kind others do not always notice. They mentioned how you carry pain without turning it into cruelty. They spoke of your loyalty, your sensitivity, your ability to sense what is unspoken. They said you may doubt yourself, but you have a presence that makes people feel seen. They admitted that you had challenged them without trying to control them. You had made them examine the parts of themselves they usually avoided. You had shown them that connection could be gentle without being weak, intense without being destructive, and meaningful without needing constant proof. Someone in the room smiled. It was a small smile, but your soulmate noticed. The energy was changing. Yet one unanswered question remained. What does this person feel about you? Your soulmate's confidence broke for a moment. They did not know how to answer. They believed you cared. They remembered your words, your patience, your attention, and the way you had remained present even when the connection became confusing. But they also feared that their hesitation had damaged your trust. They wondered whether you had grown tired of waiting. They wondered whether you still believed in them. And then, "My child," they said something that caused the entire room to become silent. They said, "I think I may have hurt them by taking too long." No one interrupted. Your soulmate's voice softened. They admitted that there were moments when they wanted to be honest with you but held back. Moments when they almost reached out but let fear stop them. Moments when they knew you needed clarity, yet they gave silence instead. They confessed that they had expected you to understand feelings they had never properly expressed. The family was not prepared for this level of honesty. One person asked, "Then why are we discussing whether this person is right for you? Should we not be asking whether you have treated them right?" That question struck deeply. For a moment, your soulmate could not speak. Because sometimes the truth does not arrive loudly. Sometimes it enters through one sentence and removes every excuse. Your soulmate realized that the meeting was no longer a trial where you were being judged. It had become a mirror where they were being asked to examine their own actions. Had they honored the connection? Had they given you the reassurance they wanted from you? Had they expected patience without offering certainty? Had they protected their own heart at the cost of yours? The room became emotional. The family members who had entered ready to question you began questioning your soulmate instead. Not to shame them, but to awaken them. One said, "You cannot ask someone to wait forever while you decide whether to be brave." Another said, "If this person gave you peace, do not repay them with confusion." And then the oldest person in the room said nothing at all. They simply watched. My child, heaven was allowing this moment to unfold because your soulmate needed to hear what you had been unable to say. They needed to understand that love hidden too long can begin to feel like rejection. They needed to understand that silence may feel safe to the person choosing it, but painful to the person receiving it. Your soulmate's eyes filled with emotion. Not because the family was against you. Because they were beginning to realize that the family might support you before your soulmate had even found the courage to stand fully beside you. That possibility shocked them. They had entered the room expecting resistance. They expected to defend why you mattered. They expected warnings, conditions, and perhaps a final refusal. Instead, the family began asking how they could meet you. Someone wanted to know what made you laugh. Someone asked what your dreams were. Someone wondered what kind of life you wanted. The person who had been most skeptical asked whether you valued family, honesty, and growth. Your soulmate answered carefully. They did not know everything about you. But they knew enough to speak with conviction. They said you had survived experiences that made you cautious. They said you valued sincerity because you had seen what inconsistency can do. They said you did not seek perfection, but you needed truth. They said your heart was soft, though you did not show that softness to everyone. Then they added, they deserve to know where they stand. That was the moment your soulmate made an inner decision. The family could feel it. Their posture changed. Their voice steadied. The uncertainty in their face began turning into purpose. One family member asked, "What are you going to do?" Your soulmate looked toward the window as though trying to see beyond the room, beyond their fear, beyond every delay that had brought them to this moment. They said, "I need to speak to them." Not someday. Not when life became perfect. Not after every doubt disappeared. Soon. But the meeting was not over. The family still needed to make a final decision, and that decision would determine whether they stood behind your soulmate, remained cautious, or asked them to walk away from the connection. The oldest family member finally spoke. Their words carried authority, and everyone became still. They said that before any decision could be made, they wanted the truth about one final thing. They turned directly toward your soulmate and asked, "If this person said they were done waiting, would you let them go?" Your soulmate's face changed. The question cut through every excuse. Would they respect your choice and remain silent? Would they finally fight for the connection? Would they confess the truth before the opportunity disappeared? For several seconds, no one moved. Then your soulmate answered, "No. I would not let fear make the decision for me again." A breath moved through the room. The oldest person leaned back slowly, studying their face. The family members exchanged glances. Some looked surprised. One looked relieved. Another appeared emotional. The final decision was near. But before it could be spoken, someone's phone vibrated on the table. A message had arrived. At first, no one paid attention. But then the person looked at the screen, and their expression changed immediately. They looked at your soulmate. Then they looked around the room. The message was about you. Not gossip. Not accusation. Not a warning. It was something no one had expected to receive during that meeting. Something that revealed a side of your story your soulmate's family had never known. The person holding the phone said, "You all need to hear this before we decide anything." Your soulmate stood frozen. The room fell completely silent. And as the message was opened, the family discovered that while they had been secretly discussing whether you belonged in your soulmate's future, you had already made a quiet decision of your own, one that could change everything before your soulmate had the chance to reach you.